All right, this video is about production levels. So far in supply, we have been dealing with things that are very similar to demand. And so it's been kind of deja vu. Well, this is the point where we're stepping away from that. And so we talked about so far the idea of short run versus long run. Now in class, what we did was we did an activity where we had each group be a paper airplane factory. And so each group had to be a paper airplane factory and had to make as many paper airplanes as they could in 1 minute's time. Okay, so now we are looking at how many, what we can actually tell for that information. So I had everybody write it down, they had to give me the information, and then we are going to use it. So first thing we're going to use it for is to determine the total product. This is the amount of airplanes we could totally produce because we had a specific number of workers. Okay, so this can be affected by the number of workers, but it also can be affected by specialization. This is the idea that we're going to have specific workers work on a particular aspect of production. For example, okay, some groups may have decided that, okay, we have, 5 people, 6 people in our group now. Okay, we're going to divide up the work, and so we're going to have, these 2 people are going to focus on the first 2 folds in the airplane. Maybe the next couple people are going to work on the next 2 folds. Okay, you could do that, and maybe that would increase your production. You can also go and, if you have noticed, in some classes I had you throw your airplanes because in order for it to count you had to actually throw them and it had to hit the wall. But if I had you throw your airplanes, there's also actually a specialization into throwing your airplanes. There are some people that are actually better at throwing airplanes. I know I had this in one of my classes, I believe in 4th period, where I had a student that was really good at throwing paper airplanes. And it's funny because you don't even think about it, but he hit the wall pretty much every single time he threw those airplanes. But other people were having a hard time getting the airplane to hit the wall. And so I said, why don't you try having him throw them for you? And their airplanes flew better when our specialized thrower threw the airplanes. So I won't call out an individual person, but what I will say is that that's specialization, and that can help increase production if you actually have somebody that is specialized in a particular part of production. So that's total product. Now the other part that we need to look at with production levels is what we call marginal product. Now if you remember when we talked about demand, we talked about marginal utility. And if you remember, we talked about marginal utility, and marginal utility was the additional satisfaction. Additional satisfaction. Now we talked about utility in chapter 1, and so utility is the satisfaction or usefulness you get from a product. Okay, so when we say marginal utility, we're talking about the additional satisfaction. So if you think about it, marginal utility, we already know utility means satisfaction. So the marginal part must be the additional. Okay, that's exactly what the reason I'm saying that is because here we're talking about marginal product. Marginal always means additional or extra. So in this case, we're talking about the change in total product from adding one more worker. So in other words, how many more airplanes can we produce because we added one more person? So for example, let's say that we had one person. We start with one person and they make 2 airplanes. Wait, oh, great, awesome. Okay, now we are going to look at adding another person, because remember, we're in the short run. The only thing we can change in the short run is the number of people. We don't have time to change anything else. So we're going to add another person, and because of our second worker, we're going to add that many more airplanes. So now together, okay, the 2 people together, they are able to produce 5 airplanes. So all 5 of these airplanes, that is our total product. That's how many we're totally able to make. Now marginal product is how much did our total product change because we added that second worker. Okay, so think about it. When I had my first worker, okay, I only had 2 airplanes. Because I added my second worker, now I can produce 5 airplanes. How many did my second worker add to our total product? Should have said 3, right? Because of my second worker, I added 3 more planes. So while our total product for 2 people is 5 because we can make 5 airplanes. Our marginal product is 3 because that's how many my second worker added to our total product. Okay? Now, in class, we are going to work on our production schedule, and I'll have another video showing how to do production schedules, so be on the lookout for that. But this is the notes portion, okay? Let me know if you have any questions.